Happy New Year everyone, welcome back to today's video. I hope you had a fantastic start to the year. In this video, I will be sharing the simple brushes I currently use to create more complex illustrations. They might look intricate, but with a few techniques, they are actually quite simple to use. I will be working with my own background brush alongside Procreate default brushes. You can download my background brush using the link below. If not, no worries, I will also recommend alternative free brushes from Procreate. Let's get started. To begin, I use Procreate's default dry ink brush, which you can find under the inking category. This brush gives a dry, rough texture to the background, making the illustration feel less realistic. Next, let's add a wall to frame our scene. To make the wall feel textured and visually interesting, I use my big rectangular block brush. This brush is designed to create block-like patterns. You can customize the spacing between the blocks by adjusting the spacing setting in the brush settings menu. I have also set the brush to randomly vary the colors of the block as you paint. This feature gives the walls a slightly worn and weathered look, making it less flat and more dynamic. Take your time with these steps to build the texture evenly across the canvas. The goal is to create a wall that complements the rest of the illustration without overpowering it. Personally, I prefer my illustration to have a happy, calm, cartoony vibe rather than an ultra-realistic one. Of course, this is entirely up to your preference. If you prefer a clean background, feel free to skip this step. Now we will focus on the coffee shop window, which is the key elements of the scenes. I'm still using the dry ink brush for this step as its texture look pairs well with the overall style of the illustration. To reflect the warm yellow interior of the coffee shop, I switched to my messy rectangular background brush and reduce its opacity. Lowering the opacity allows the brush to create subtle variations in yellow tones, giving the window a more natural and layered appearance. This technique is really useful when painting backgrounds with multiple colors or intricate details as it adds depth and visual interest without extra effort. So you can try and let me know whether it's helpful. To add life and greenery to the scene, we will paint some leaves around the window. For this, I use my custom leaf background brush. If you do not have this brush, it is okay. You can use Procreate default brush called Paper Daisy, which you can find under the organic categories. It is a great alternative. In the past, I used to draw individual leaves, which was enjoyable but very time-consuming. Using a leaf brush not only speeds up the process but also allows you to easily adjust the colors of the plant, match the tone of your scene. The goal here is to frame the window naturally, adding a touch of charm and vibrancy to the illustration. Now let's place some small pots in front of the window. I use my tree trunk background brush for this, even though it's originally designed for painting tree trunks. This brush works well for creating the texture, slightly uneven appearance of flower pots. As you paint, you can adjust the brightness of the colors to create variations in the pot's tones. For efficiency, you can duplicate the pot layers to quickly replicate them. This not only saves time but also ensures consistency across the illustration. So for the plants in the pot, to fill the pot with plants, I use my messy edge uneven brush. Alternatively, you can stick with the paper daisy brush from earlier. I love the messy edge uneven brush because it gives the plants a natural untamed look, which contrasts nicely with the leaves around the window. By introducing different plant texture, the scenes feel more dynamic and realistic. To make the plants more lively, I add some small fruits around or blossoms. Little details like this can really bring the illustration to life. For the floor, I return to the big rectangle block brush. I paint the entire canvas first and then use the arrow tool on the left hand side to resize and position the layer, transforming it into a floor. This technique is straightforward and versatile, allowing you to create a textured floor that anchors the composition. By this point, you have likely got the hang of creating plants. This step is an opportunity to practice and refine your technique. While the steps are simple, choosing the right colors is crucial for creating a harmonious illustration. Take your time to experiment with different shades and tones until everything feels balanced. So we'll take some time to finish up the plants, and we will move on to add texture to the wall. To give the coffee shop an old coffee shop vibe, we will add some texture to the wall. I use Procreate default brushes called heavy metal, which you can find in the industrial category. This brush adds a rough weather effect to the wall, making it feel aged and full of character. Once the wall texture is complete, you can add additional elements like cracks, stains, or graffiti to personalize the space, so feel free to spread your creativity. Lighting can transform the mood of your illustration. I create a new layer, adjust its opacity, and set the layer moods to overlay. Experiment with the opacity settings to achieve the desired effect. Soft, diffuse lighting can make your illustration feel warm and inviting, while sharper lighting creates a more dramatic atmosphere. I like to use ink bleed brush to outline the character and dry ink brush for coloring. Outlining is optional and depends on your preferred style. This combination adds a chalky texture effect that complements my illustration style. If you prefer a smoother look, consider using Procreate's airbrush tools instead. Take a few minutes to experiment with different brushes and see what works best for your artwork. To enhance the lighting, I use my uneven pieces background brush to stimulate light filtering through branches and leaves. If you do not have this brush, Procreate default Aurora brush works well too, so you can find this brush under the artistic category. I set the lighting layers to add mood and apply a Gaussian blur to soften the edges. For a natural effect, I use the eraser to remove parts of the light layer, mimicking sunlight filtering through foliage. The last step is to outline the entire illustration, but this step is entirely optional, so if you do not want to outline your illustration, it's totally fine to skip this step. Well, that's all we have for today, so if you like this type of tutorial videos, feel free to subscribe and I will see you in the next video.